What's up, Mortgage Coach community? Dave Savage here. Every Friday, 9 o'clock, we are here to deliver value as a mastermind. I've got my wingman, Todd Bookspan. And Todd, dude, it's like going on months where we're both making this call. So good to have you, dude.
Dude, it is good to be here. I'm broadcasting live from my daughter's bedroom, which has the fastest internet connection in the house. And I got this beautiful pale look apparently from the lighting. So I'm excited to be here, but more excited to actually get to hang out with Hunter. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, no doubt. So Hunter Marckwaradt, what's up, dude?
Dave, how are you, man? Good to be here. And yeah, Todd's in his daughter's room. I'm in my kitchen. Sorry for the hat, but my barber canceled on me last night, and it's just I'm tired of having ridiculous hair, so I got the hat on today.
No, you look good on the hat, bro. And did I say your last name?
You said my name. I mean, yes. I wasn't going to go off on a tangent, but you got it down perfect. Well done.
I got it done.
Yeah.
I got it down. So cool. So Mortgage Coach community, I put a post in a couple days ago sharing a Sunday thought that Hunter shared that just connected. I read it a couple times on Sunday after I got it, and then I literally woke up Monday morning and I read it again, and it meant something to me personally. It made me have some deeper thoughts around things that I have done and things that I haven't done. And so what I'd like to do is just start, just in case someone doesn't know you, tell them who you are, and then let's tell them a little bit about the Sunday thoughts, and then let's just do a Zoom video version of that Sunday thought. You cool with that?
Sure. Yeah, and I don't have the Sunday thoughts in front of me, so I'm just going to go out of memory if that's okay.
Yeah, no problem. And I got it in front of me, so I can make sure we connect the dots on anything that you miss. Yeah.
Okay. So who am I? I'm just a guy, but I'm background, been in the mortgage business for 15 years. I've been coaching for the core for the last 10 years. I've got a team of 6 in Northern California. I mean, this year's obviously abnormal, but normally, $120, $130 million a year in production. I've got a leadership role inside of the company as the chief production officer for Lend US. And I love doing this type of stuff probably more than any of it. So Sunday, you want me to talk about Sunday thoughts?
Well, I want to unpack that, guy. So I want to make sure everybody connects the dots. This guy is one of the most successful loan originators in America. He has been trusted enough, not just by his partners and his realtors, but by the owner of his company and his peers to lead production. So that's a lot of work. He is a core coach, which means he was also a core student for a long time. So he knows how to be coached, and he also knows how to professionally coach other people. I just think it's important to recognize those things, because to me, that's a really special person in the mortgage business that doesn't grow on trees. Like if there was a mortgage hall of fame, Hunter, you get my vote. I would be nominating you as one of the people that would be in the mortgage hall of fame.
Thank you.
So, and then I want to unpack Sunday thoughts real quick, because it's a cool thing that you do. So when did you start that? How many people are you sending it to? So they at least have some framing on what is a Sunday thought, and then we'll describe the one at hand.
Okay. Yeah. So Sunday thoughts is something that has morphed into, it is funny how you just start doing one little thing, and if you keep doing it, it actually, for me, it's changed my life, not so much in what Sunday thoughts has done for other people, but just for me, it's the power of writing things down and having to clarify what is in your brain versus, literally clarifying what's in your brain by putting it in writing, because you can't, my brain's just going a million miles an hour all the time, and to actually have to put something down on a paper is super impactful and helpful for me. But what it is I literally 8 years ago, at this point, just being a coaching, I just sent a note out to 12 students, and it literally just said the first Sunday thoughts was advice that my dad gave me a long time ago. I remember, he sold copiers for Xerox, and he would be planning, I would see him planning his day for an hour on Sunday. And I asked him what he was doing. He just said, if you plan your week out an hour on Sunday, it just kickstarts the week. This is like, I was, 14, 15 years old. So my first one was just a note. I just said Sunday Thoughts is the title. And I sent it to my 12 students just saying, about the lesson that I learned from my dad. And if they could prep for the upcoming week, it was going to be a better week. And the next week I had another Sunday Thought and just kept sending them to the same 12 students. And then the students, when, we coach for every 6 months, and they would ask, if they could stay on the list. And then my CEO got a hold of one and he asked if he could be on the list. And so what it turned into was me observing my week and looking at things. A lot of times I can focus probably more on the negative than I should, but a lot of the times I think it's helpful to see what you're doing wrong sometimes, and it helps fix it. But even things that I'm doing right, and just to write them down on a weekly basis and get them out to my coaching students. Now it's my company. So you ask about, there's literally, I think on a weekly basis now, I think there's 2,500 people on the list that get Sunday Thoughts.
Wow.
And yeah, and it's all over the map, right? Sometimes it can be on time management. Sometimes it could be, probably my favorite one is the one that I wrote, one of the first ones was just, asking my son, I think he was 9 years old. We're coming home from a basketball game that he was playing in. And I said to him, like, hey, what's one thing I could do to be a better dad? And I was focused on, like, what's one thing I could do? And he said, Dad, you're a great dad, blah, blah, blah. I said, no, you have to tell me one thing that I can do to be a better dad. And he just, he thought about it for 5 minutes, and he he just said to me, he goes, if you put your phone down at night when you got home for dinner, you'd be a better dad. And I wrote about that. And I think you and I've talked about this, Dave, but like that one in particular, as far as like what it did for other people, just because so many people experienced the same thing. I think that was my first where I got out of my comfort zone and said, you know what? Because literally, they're very personal. You see them. But it was the first time where I said, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to get, like, at that point in time, there might've been 50 people getting them. And after that kind of response that I got, I just said, screw it. I'm just going to start blasting it out to more people. And, now it's my business partners, it's my company, it's my coaching students, it's my friends, family. So that's where we are with it now.
I love that story. I want to unpack a few things, guys. So one, that's how Rob Chrisman's newsletter, which I do believe it is the most consumed, highest impact piece of media in the mortgage industry, started with Rob Chrisman creating something for a small group. His company got bigger, and now it's not the most valuable and most read piece of content in the mortgage industry. It's among the top. And so I think for everybody out there, there's a story to be told there, where if you lead and you put it out there, people will follow, and it can really create incredible impact. So I think that's pretty cool. Another thing I want to impact, because we have Mr. Win by Noon on the call. And Todd, I'm sure you were loving just hearing the whole philosophy of bookending your week, bookending your day. Anything you want to comment on that?
Well, I just love the advice from your dad where it all started. I feel like so many people would just benefit if they just spent a little bit of time planning what they're doing. So, I love that. I certainly love the transparency that you have sharing what your son said. And I got to imagine that you, it sounds like you got great response to that. What other letters have you written that have gotten tremendous feedback from the folks who've read it?
Another one, probably the most, there's a few. I wrote about, there's sad ones and there's good ones. There was one time I was in Palm Desert at a coaching summit. And for some reason, I decided that I was going to go for a run. And I just decided before the run, every single person that I see, I am going to like scream, like, how are you? Like, how you doing? And so I'm literally running in Palm Desert, and like, there's this guy mowing the yard. I run over, I give him a fist pump. There's an old man walking across the street. I'm screaming, good morning, sir. How are you? And like just watching these people and how much, like, I was getting so like joyful doing it. I know this sounds really strange, but I'm just running through like, hey, what's up? Hey, how are you? Like fist pumping people while running by them, and people are responding. And I wrote about that. That got a really, I think people were like, wow, you're nuts. And at the same time, the whole point was like, you could bring so much joy to people by just being a little more energetic and a little different. And, people rise to the feelings that you give them. Another one that was incredibly incredibly sad was a buddy of mine, a very good friend of mine. His daughter was on a plane. She's 30 years old. It was her birthday, on a plane to Australia, and she died on the plane. She just out of nowhere, she died. So, and I wrote my friend a letter that he now has framed, just about like, you know, his daughter and what he's going through. And to my Sunday Thoughts group, I just wrote about the gratitude that you have to have, and just, you know, I mean, it's a constant theme. You know, I mean, everyone, unfortunately, people pass away, and it's like you automatically go into, it doesn't last forever. But it's like, how do you take that grief, and then the appreciation for life, and actually think about it on a more consistent basis than needing someone to die in order to get in that place, right? So I wrote about that. I would say those are probably the bigger responses that I've gotten from people. It is kind of funny though, because like there's CEOs on it, there's just normal, I don't want to say normal people, but like you get different responses from different people, right? You can write an emotional one and you get a certain response. You can write one on leadership or time management, you get one and you get a different response from different people. So anyway, long-winded. I can be long-winded sometimes, so just cut me off if I'm talking.
Dude, this is what we're here for, man. So it's not long-winded, and they're amazing stories of impact. If someone, are you cool if people from the mortgage community want to get on it? Does it have to be someone that already knows you? How would someone get on it? Like, you want them to connect with you on social, email you? What would be a way?
Just email me. I need to get better on that. I mean, but just email me at hunter@rpm-mtg.com.
Guys, I will put a link down below in the show notes. If you're watching this on YouTube, we'll have a link to Hunter's email address so that you can connect with him and do that. And I recommend you follow him. I have a feeling this Hunter's Sunday Thoughts is going to become an even bigger deal. If it's got to 2,500, the way it's gotten there, I think it's going to be a big deal, and it is already a big deal to me. So Hunter, let's do the live version of that. Like, talk about the one that, you know, we're going to talk about, and then let's unpack that a little bit.
Okay, so I was, and Dave knows this, because I don't always feel like doing Sunday Thoughts, and you know, I mean, there's 52 obviously weeks in a year, so I would say I probably get it out, I don't know, I'm 45, I don't count, but I mean, it's probably, I miss 4 to 5 weeks a year. But there are times where I just do not feel like doing them. And last Sunday was one of them. And I decided, and I was at total peace with it. I wasn't going to do Sunday Thoughts, and I was fine with it. Where most of the time, if I don't do the Sunday Thoughts, it just bites in my ear that I should be doing this. And I was sitting outside my backyard on a lounge chair, and I was listening to this record player that I just got. And I was listening to Jack Johnson, and I've never had a record player, but I got a gift from a guy that works with me. And I'm sitting there listening to this going, like, he sent me, so this guy sends me a record player. He sends me 10 of my favorite, and this just showed up out of nowhere, sends me 10 of my favorite songs. He knows what kind of music I like. So he sends me 10 vinyls. He sends me these 2 killer speakers. So, and I'm listening to this music, and it sounded super cool. And I was like, this is kind of amazing. So I just texted him. His name's Brandon. And I just said, hey, Brandon, I'm sitting here in my backyard listening to this and listening to what you did, the speakers. And I love it. And I just wanted to let you know how much I appreciate it. And I will try to, I mean, I'm sure I can look this up, Dave, real quick.
Well, here, let me do this. I want everybody to see Hunter's face as we're doing this, but I'm going to show it on my screen. Is that what you were going to do? Is show the actual, or reference something from it?
Yeah, I was just going to say the text. I mean, so I can read it right here. So the text is, I mean, here's what it said. I said, love this. He said, you have had the greatest impact on my life. I said, thank you for the record and how much I appreciated the record. And he said, you've had the greatest impact on my life and me as an individual that anyone else has had by a landslide. And that is a very small representation of my gratitude for you. So I'm reading that, and I was like, holy crap. Like, it was just this, like, honestly, it was, I mean, I literally started crying, and I'm not, I mean, I can cry. I'm not like, but I mean, like, I'm not much of a crier in that sense. And I'm just sitting there going like, it hit me like, this guy just wrote that I have had I've had a bigger impact in his life than anyone else in his life. And like, to have the, like, it's an, I guess the point is, it's an honor, right? And it's like, it just made me think about, like, if I can impact Brandon's life like this, if I can impact, like, how many other people, if you just take the chance of leading people, and if you take the chance of the vulnerability, if you take the chance of the time, the benefits of being a leader to people is, and you don't have to have a position or a title to do it. You just have to care about people, and you have to pour into people, and you have to deliver, and you have to, you know, you have to deliver. And when you get that kind of a response, it's worth more than money. It's worth more than anything. And it's also I mean, I think the other point too is the vulnerability to be able to share that kind of communication. Right. I mean, it's not a text that you're going to send you wouldn't think you're going to send that text to a whole lot of people, but it felt great. So I just asked him, you know, I mean, this whole thing took place in a 15-minute period of time. And I just said, do you mind if I write about this? Cause I was just thinking about how great it felt. And that's how that Sunday Thoughts came about.
Love it. Love it. Well, you had 5 takeaways that you put in your Sunday Thought. So you shared that story. And
Yep.
literally when when you said, I was reading the text and it made me cry, you can feel it, you know, and anybody that follows Hunter, you just know that this guy is super authentic, super legit, and you can just feel it. And so what were those 5 things?
Do me a favor, put them up for me.
Okay. So where did we go? All right, here we are. Can you read that?
Yep. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm just going to read these, Dave, because when I wrote them, they sound better than me remembering them. So, telling someone who has had a positive impact on your life is something that should be said or written. He didn't just make my day. To a large degree, he validated my life. And I think for me, it wasn't about him, right? There's a difference between feeling like, oh, I feel great because someone just gave me a compliment, right? Like, you get done speaking and someone says, Dave, you just kicked ass on stage, right? That feels good. The better feeling for me was that it is a validation of why we put the time and energy into other people. And it validated everything that I really do when I'm in my best, like the best hunter mode, right? That to me that's as good as it gets. Going past the service level BS is worth it when you invest in people.
Real quick, Hunter, but let's do this before we go to each one. Let's talk about each one, because
sure.
I got some thoughts to share. Todd might have some thoughts to share. And one of my takeaways when you wrote that, you know, because you wrote it, you were delivering this, every single person that reads it, some people just read it once and like, next. Some people skimmed it. Some people like me read it multiple times. And I guarantee we all had different things that we took from that. And one of the things I took from it was just like, what a cool dude this other guy was. Like he took the time to say thank you to you in a way that, you know, helped you validate your life, dude. Like what an amazing thank you. And I thought, like, it doesn't mean you need to buy someone, you know, a record player. Right. I'm sure it was not cheap. And, you know, it was super creative. It was super cool. And it was a major investment. But just taking time to write an email, you know, just taking time to say thank you. I was reflecting a lot on just the power of a deep thank you. Todd, any takeaways you had from it? Because you read it. I'm sure you have a different perspective.
Well, no, I've got a similar perspective. I mean, I think that, you know, most of us don't take the time, like Hunter said, to actually let people know how they've impacted us. And it was one of those things, you know, I think I first early on heard it from Coach Bill Hart when he was coaching me. He called it his why file. I had sent him an email, you know, really thanking him for the impact he had on me, not just as a producer, but as a human being. I felt like I was becoming a better husband, a better dad because of his impact. And he said, I have got this why file. So I still have a why file for me. And But the kind of the aha is kind of, we talked about a little bit, Dave, the other day, is that I haven't done a good job when someone thanks me and sends me a letter that's in my Y file of responding in an appropriate way. So, I love seeing that, Hunter, that you did this. And, certainly no one's ever sent me a really bitchin' record player, but I've got some cool gifts. And so I'm super grateful.
But Todd, it's so funny because when you said about, and Bill Hart, I know Bill Hart, I love that guy. But when you just said that it's so funny how you finished it, because I literally was thinking it's also about, and I don't do a good job of it. Like when people give you a compliment, when people show you their love, I mean, even though I did in this one case because it was Brandon and I'm close to him, but it's like, if someone's taking the time to give you some serious props and they mean it, like you're really doing them a disservice by just saying, thanks, Dave. Right. I mean, as opposed to like going all in, like, I mean, get a little love going, it sounds cheesy, but it's true. Like, someone takes the time to give you a serious compliment. Don't blow them off like it's nothing.
Yeah, that's so true. And I want to do two tactical things on this. I can't remember who I interviewed, but I know it was a great idea. They were talking about an approach strategy with referral partners and realtors. And again, I'm going to tell you the idea, and it's a great idea, but the next bullet point is going to give you a qualifier. It can't be a BS thank you, but writing reviews for people and taking the time, like we know as loan officers, when a family takes the time to give us a review online that's thoughtful, articulate, and legit, we appreciate it. But are we as professionals taking the time to write reviews for our agents, for a CPA, a financial planner? And so, one push I would give to everybody in the community is there's just thank yous that you should do because you should do it as a human being. And you know what? There's thank yous you should do because it's also strategic and it's smart and it's good business that we run past. And I know in the core you guys are, you write hand thank you cards to people. So it's like a thank you culture. But I just want to remind everybody of that. And then one more tactic I want to remind everybody of. I've interviewed Jeremy Forcier a few times on this, and it was one of my biggest takeaways. I did a 2-day site visit with him that I facilitated, and he shared all kinds of awesome stuff. But the one thing that I said that, if every loan officer did what Jeremy's doing, he's waiting, client's in process, the client says thank you, and then he sequences his ask for referral based off of that thank you. So that's a point when that client is feeling gratitude. They either just got clear to close, they, got approved, they're loving you, and you strategically tell them, well, thank you, and would you mind helping me by referring me to 2 people that you think I should know or 2 people you think I should help? And here's the deal, guys. Jeremy is doing that, and he's killing it. He's getting more referrals from his past clients than he ever did because he is handling that thank you from the client with more than nothing, and like Chick-fil-A, they train their people that when any consumer that comes into a Chick-fil-A says thank you, they don't just blow it off. They have a very clear response. I'm actually not remembering what they say right now.
My pleasure.
My pleasure. My
My
pleasure.
pleasure. My pleasure. So I guess I would just leave everybody with this thought as we enter the halftime. There is just so much powerful in giving thank yous, and there's just so much emotional energy and power from responding to a thank you in a smart way, in a way that comes from the heart. Hunter, anything you want to add to that before we move on to the next bullet point?
I mean, it's just between what Todd said and what you just said, like 30 minutes before our call, I sent 2 clients thank you notes for sending just killer Google reviews. So it's so funny that we're talking about this. But the only thing I would just say is on the notes, if you're going to take the time to get a pen out, make it count, right? I mean, like I literally have a drawer of like, if you're sitting at my desk and you pull out the left drawer, there is a stack of thank you notes to me from others where they made it count. And when I'm having a bad day, I open that up as like, it's my power drawer, right? I mean, it's like, it's what gets me back in gear because of like the time and energy that these people took to write words that mattered, as opposed to just the thank you, right? I mean, it's like, it's not a task. And if you just look at it, like it's just, I call it process versus purpose. It's like, make it count. So that's all I would say to everybody. If you're going to write a letter, make it count. If you're not going to make it count, then don't write it.
Love it. So let's go to the number 2 here. Go ahead and read it, and then we'll talk about it and unpack it a little
Okay.
bit.
Going past the surface level BS is worth it. When you invest in people, you reap rewards that go far beyond monetary compensation. Personally, I don't think I could feel any greater reward than this.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, that's what, that's why we're all here on this call together right now, right? I mean, it's like you do stuff that's kind of beyond, and this is the type of stuff that comes back to you.
Well, to me, the big takeaway was just going beyond the BS. And I started thinking of the ripple effect of the difference between great mortgage professionals that are transformational people, and they're going beyond the BS. And I just thought, like, not only in the case was this like a super authentic gift, you took the time to write it, you wrote it in this super authentic way, you went beyond the BS. How powerful is that? But I just think, like, and again, I'm going to do a little plug for Mortgage Coach here. So many loan officers, they meet with the family wants a transaction, and they don't go beyond just the transaction and the BS. What are your hopes? What are your dreams? What are your goals? And then giving them options. So I just thought the ripple effect of going beyond the BS, going beyond the transaction, is just so powerful. Todd, any thoughts on that one?
Well, I mean, Hunter nailed it. He said, if you're going to take the time to get out the pen, make it really count. And I think that that's just hard for people. I think a lot of it depends on how you grew up, whether that was conversations you had around the dinner table. A lot of people didn't, in my house, that wasn't we weren't all touchy feely, but now we've become that way just because that's just, we're showing the gratitude. Life is short. And, I just think there's so many times where, at least me personally, I've said, gosh, I should do something really nice for someone. And then I don't take the action. I don't send the record player or the bottle of wine or even write the handwritten note. And, I'm just going to encourage everyone to take advice from what Hunter's doing and just get it done. And, take time. It doesn't take that long, just do it.
I love it. I love it. And Marcus French just put in chat. And remember, guys, I was not able to push this into Facebook, not because of human error, but because there's some technology issue. So we don't have our Facebook Live audience, but in chat, Marcus French just said, awesome, you're good. So I think he's digging what we're putting down. Thank you, Marcus. And then he said, it's making me think of Todd Duncan's High Trust. And you're totally right. Anybody that's ever read Todd's High Trust Selling, has been to a sales mastery event, I mean, that is a cornerstone of what Todd teaches is, go beyond the transaction. What are your hopes? What are your dreams? What are your goals? And at the end of the day, that's like common sense. We all know it. But in the marketplace, it's not that common. I interviewed Brian Morley, who's a $100 million producer on the East Coast. He's kind of got he's a peer of yours, Hunter, for Fulton Mortgage. So not only does he kill it as a team, but he provides leadership for the whole group. He's just another Hall of Fame, super awesome guy. And he is buying a house on about an hour from his house on the coast, on the East Coast. And he said, you know what, I'm going to take this opportunity to shop some lenders. It's like 2 weekends ago. And he literally texted me on a Sunday. He's become a black belt at Mortgage Coach. He's done over 600 TCAs, but he's like, Dave, on Sunday, he's like, I have a whole new appreciation for Mortgage Coach because I called 6 different lenders. No one asked me what my goals were. It was just like transaction, and everybody gave me a fee worksheet. And he's like, and as a consumer, like, it sucked. Like I just, it was just a really bad taste. So again, just going beyond the BS, and trust me, everybody listening to this, it is not that common. And then even, top producers, sometimes we get sloppy and we don't go beyond the BS. We don't go beyond the transaction. But when we do is when magic happens. Hunter, anything else you want to tie a bow around that before we hit the next one?
Well, I was just going to say that Brandon, the guy that was the originator of these Sunday Thoughts, is a huge Mortgage Coach user. So it's kind of a win-win for you.
Well, I think, not to brag about Mortgage Coach, but Mortgage Coach users are the best loan officers in America, period. Because regardless of their success levels, in order to give a TCA, you had to ask them what hopes, dreams, and goals, and you're giving them options. And that puts you in a category beyond the norm. So way to go, Brandon. I don't know if you're watching this, but thank you. All right. So we are on number 4.
Okay, so no, we're the one
yeah.
above. So
Right.
worry not about who is interested in being helped. If your mindset is to invest in all people, you'll find the diamonds out there. I need to remember this. I also need help and constantly seek helpers. Yeah, I mean, it's just, I guess I equate it to, I used to sit, like if I was talking to 10 people or 15 people, I'd find the one or two people in the room that didn't want to be there. And then I'd try to convince them that they wanted to be there, as opposed to focusing on the 12, 13 or 14 people that actually wanted to be there, just from an insecurity standpoint. I just think that if you don't have any guardrails up on helping people, it's just a better way to go through it. Like you just try to be the best version of yourself, and it's going to gravitate towards certain people, and don't worry about the people that don't want to get help. I mean, for me, that's my point to myself, because I get, this person doesn't want my input because they're such and such, like everything's qualified. It's like, screw it. Like you miss out on so many opportunities, like trying to qualify who needs help and who doesn't. Not suggesting, by the way, that I'm like the helper of all, like that I have all the abilities to give everyone else help. I'm just saying in general, though, like the mindset of don't qualify who needs help. Just do your best, and let the chips fall where they may. Or in that case, Brandon's my diamond. So anyway.
Love it. Todd, any thoughts come to mind on that?
Well, I just think we all have such an impact out there. And oftentimes I talk to people who don't feel like they're a leader. They don't feel like they're doing much for the people around them. And I think if you're a loan officer, you are a leader. You're leading somebody, whether you have an assistant, or even if you have a process, or even if they're shared, you're still leading them, and you can have an impact. And so, take what Hunter just said and look at your day-to-day and how can you inspire them. And you know what, he just said it, some people you inspire, some people you won't, but I think you've got a great opportunity.
So Roberta said that hits home. So thank you, Roberta, for sharing that. If anybody else has a question or just a comment, we're talking to ourselves on this camera. It's great to get feedback from anybody that's on it. Let us know what's hitting home. And if you have questions, let us know what they are. So, two thoughts on that. And I have to overcome that. It's hard for me sometimes, because being Mr. Mortgage Coach, the biggest challenge I have is adoption and getting people to leverage the technology. And I do find myself, like, after reading it and reflecting on it, focusing on the hardest people to get adoption and not focusing on the best people. So like one action I took, and if anybody's watching this, you may have got it from me, is I took a note from just the whole thing. I need to say thank you more. Like, I don't say thank you nearly enough. And usually I spend so much time chasing the bottom, the hardest people to get to do things. And I personally went through some of our top companies, and I looked for who are the top 3 to 5 users of Mortgage Coach. And I said, thank yous, like, hey, thank you. Congratulations on being the #1 user of Mortgage Coach at blank company. I've never done that before. And so, 1, it really felt good. 2, I learned some things, like, I'm like, oh my God, who's this person? I don't even know this person, because I took the time to look for the people that are killing it most in the Mortgage Coach community. And based off of their activity of using Mortgage Coach, I said, thank you. And so 1, I just got a whole lot of psychic energy from doing that. I got some really cool feedback. There was a lot of strategic value. And so anyways, I love that, Hunter. And I would just push all the leaders out there. At the end of the day, yeah, I'm a tech guy. People always think Dave Savage, Mortgage Coach, tech, lead conversion dude. Guys, the most powerful force on earth is leadership. And it is saying thank you. It is showing up for people. And it's not letting the people that don't listen to you, or the people that aren't following you, don't take it personally. And to your point, Hunter, we all need that reminder, man. And I needed that reminder, and you helped me, and I appreciate it, dude.
Right on.
Right on. So let's go to the last one.
All right. Pour into people with humility and vulnerability. I'm realizing the more vulnerable we are, the greater the reward, hands down. So, I mean, that's just, if you have humility and you are vulnerable, you are open. To me, it's like you're just opening yourself up to connect with people. And if you're, you know, the opposite, I don't know what the opposite words of, I mean, arrogant and what, I mean, whatever it is, right? Your bottom line is those two words make you attractive and make you open to relationships. And the opposite of those two words close you out from having a relationship beyond the surface level BS with anybody, in my opinion. So like, I have to remember, kind of going back to like, don't let your, I was literally talking to a therapist and you know, we were talking about like me, like getting insecure based on who people, like what someone's status was, as opposed to like, I'm not insecure if someone's below me. I am insecure if someone's above me. And it just makes you realize like you just can't care about, if you just be vulnerable with everybody, have humility with everybody, and you open yourself up for relationships. That's simple.
Love it. Todd, it was not long-winded, bro.
No,
Todd,
you know, it reminds me
thoughts?
of, you know, we learn so much from our mistakes, and sharing our mistakes with others, I think makes us transparent. So, I mean, I love that early on you said, Hunter, hey, I write about the things that I do wrong as well. And I think, you know, it's kind of the whole social media plastic life people try to live and show only the great stuff. And we know that everyone's got, you know, their own bag of junk that they're dragging behind them. And I think when you share transparently, I think people grow on it. When I was doing a video series, when I was an originator, you know, I was told that people liked it because it was authentically me. It wasn't polished. There was no fancy intro and outro. And I think you just got to look at yourself and decide, hey, how am I showing up? Am I okay with how am I showing up? How do people perceive how I'm there? And maybe add in that little extra transparency. And I think what you're going to find is it'll draw people to you, because they're going to say, gosh, you know what? I actually could hang out with Dave. You know, Dave's a good guy. Hey, Hunter seems like a normal guy, even though he does 120, 130 million and he's running production at a big, huge company. You know, oh, he seems like a good guy. And I think that you all have to remember that. That's, I think, what your people around you, your clients, everyone appreciates. And maybe you just need to determine what's your way to get that out so that they understand it. And it just starts with, I think, a conversation on a phone call and sharing transparently there. And then, you know, maybe down the road, look to have a bigger stage like Dave does and like Hunter does.
Love it, guys. All right. So I want to talk for a few minutes on another action that I took. You know, I read it, thought about it, and I did some things differently. I said thank you to all the biggest users of Mortgage Coach. And then another thing that I did is I had gotten a thank you on Friday from a new loan officer. And I don't want to brag, but I get some handwritten notes, I get emails, I get texts. I mean, I get a lot of thank yous for different things that we've done here at Mortgage Coach, whether it's the videos that I do, the interviews that I do. And this was a new loan officer, Alex Cook. By the way, Alex Cook, I had a similar feeling. You didn't send me the killer stereo, but it was like, this is my why, dude. This is why I do what I do, is to help people be more successful. And here's this dude. He's been in business for 6 months. He's, you know, working with a branch with Pete Metz, who's being mentored by John Weller, who I had played golf in Bend with like 2 days prior, like last week. I never do that, but I went on a guy's golf trip and I was playing golf with John Weller, who's a badass mortgage coach, cool dude, who's being coached by Tim Brahim, you know. So, and I actually, you know both of those guys really well, super good, close friends. And so this guy has adopted Mortgage Coach, got in the business, adopted Mortgage Coach, and he's closing 20 loans in July. I mean, first of all, that's a mind-bending amount of success for a new originator. And he took the time to say thank you to me. And so, guys, that meant a lot to me. I didn't cry. I want to be transparent, authentic. But I was like, yes, I was pumped. Now, dude, just so you know, if you want to make me cry, you could send me the stereo system and all that stuff. You know, so
yeah, but I think transparently, Dave, you told me about the email like on our weekly call, and like I knew it impacted you, and so it doesn't have to be a stereo, people. It just has to be the thought that was there. Right. Like Hunter said, make it count when you. I was
absolutely. I mean, this note, whether it would have been handwritten, emailed, you took time to say thank you in a way that mattered. So that was powerful, and that was just like, and I think if I hadn't read Hunter's thing, I would have responded to your email. but it would have not have been the same response. I gave a deeper response. And I also, I'm going to be interviewing this guy. I was like, hey, I want to interview you and your mentor who got you in the business. So I don't think I would have done that. I wouldn't have thought about it the same. It would have been a quick answer. And now I'm going to be interviewing his mentor. I'm going to be interviewing this guy. I'm going to be, bringing it to bear for the mortgage coach community. And then that made me think of something else. And I wrote this post in our Facebook group. Guys, this is currently in the group. Check it out. And I'm not going to read this out loud, but this was a huge takeaway. Is I thought, like, you know what, this guy would have never had the success he did if Tim Brahim would not have been a coach to John Weller and had mentored him. And if John Weller, by the way, may not be a mortgage coach if it wasn't for Tim Brahim, because Tim Brahim was this killer mortgage coach user that I interviewed a lot. John respected him. He followed him, and he has become this leader. Jim has become that leader, uses mortgage coach, gets another dude. So it made me think of the power and the ripple effect of leadership. And even though we've got a great piece of technology and it's easy to use and it creates value, if it was not for these coaches and mentors putting in, loving on each other, giving value, this dude would not have become a customer of mine, none of this would have happened. So anyways, just a lot of power, a lot of value. Hunter, any comments, any thoughts, dude?
No, I mean, I just agree with everything you say. I mean, I guess my only thought would be is you have to your point, you have to take a look back sometimes. And I think that's actually what happened with me with Brandon is you have to look at how everything is connected. And I know that I focus on the negatives. There's so much good, and it comes from all of these things happening, right? Like I will have a better day because of talking to you guys. It's all connected, and we have to think. You got to take a step back. I think when you focus on the purpose versus the process, like taking a step back and thinking about how all of this is correlated, makes you focus more on doing the right things, right?
So I got a question for you. I don't know how detailed you can answer it, but you're a coach. You had this kind of impact on this guy. What are just some other ideas that you have, whether someone's listening to this and they're an individual loan officer that just wants to have impact on their family, whether this is a branch manager that wants to have impact on their team, regardless of where they're at a leadership level and the amount of people that they lead. Just give us some ideas, just stream of consciousness, ideas that help you create that type of impact and value on people. What are some thoughts?
You have to listen to what people's individual needs are. You have to understand, well, first of all, you have to be vulnerable enough to ask weird questions, I think. So, I mean, it's like literally, Dave, for my team and I, right? We talk on a weekly basis. We talk about one goal that we're working on personally, right? Like what's one thing you have to, bottom line is you have to invest in your people to understand what it is that they need. And then you need to show them that you care by following up on what you're working on with them so that they see that you actually care. Like, I mean, you have to ask yourself, I call it the asset liability. I did not make this up, obviously, but I mean, like, am I being an asset to someone, or am I being like, we are all being assets or liabilities to one another and to ourselves 24 hours a day. And the question is, like, with your team members or with your clients, are you being an asset or are you being a liability? And if you're being an asset, it's usually because you're investing into them. So it's what are you doing to invest in your people? It's what are you doing to invest in your clients? And then, I mean, there's so many things that go beyond that. But I think for me, everything starts with my mindset. If you have the right mindset, you end up going in the right direction. If you don't have the right mindset, all the tactics in the world don't matter.
What about accountability? Because at the core, I mean, that's one of the things that you guys are really well known for is, just this super high level of accountability. How important is the accountability to helping others?
It's everything, right? I mean, you think about when someone's not, if you don't hold someone accountable, you basically, now there's different ways to be accountable, right? I mean, there's carrot and stick mentality, all that. But I mean, if you think about all the people in your life that don't hold you accountable to anything, it just, like, it doesn't mean anything. When someone does hold you accountable, in order to be accountable to someone, you had to have had interaction with them. You had to have understood what's important to them, and you had to have followed up with them to make sure that they are staying on track. And if you do that, people are going to be gravitated towards you, right? I mean, so accountability to me is everything. It's why I still do it. You know, I mean, it's almost like, for me, it's like AA for alcoholics is what a coaching and accountability is to me on my business and life. If I don't have it, I would fall off the tracks. I know that.
Todd, any questions you have for Hunter, or anything you want to do before we kind of wrap up this part of the conversation and we go into wrapping up the call and helping people kick off the second half of 2020?
I mean, those of us who are coaches or have been coached, we understand accountability. And how do you get the people who, they know they need it, but they don't really want it? I mean, how are you able to influence someone to allow you to hold them to be accountable?
I think you have to understand their why, right? I mean, you have to dig down to understand what it is. Like, if I have a coaching student that's just not being accountable, they're just not doing it. And I just keep talking to them. It's like, Todd, what is it? Like, if it's not money, what is it? Is it your family, right? I mean, is it I just had one of my coaching students, Kevin Rudrud, his daughter, the coaching assignment was his daughter wrote this giant board and it said, "You are what you do." And the idea was, like, his daughter's more important to him than anything in the world. So he's sitting there with "You are what you do," that created by his daughter, so that it's I mean, to me, it's all mental games. Like, how do we get ourselves to go into the zone of being accountable? And everyone has different trigger points. And I think the best coaches understand what the trigger points are. They get out of their students or their friends or family, whatever, what it is that's going to make someone actually decide that this accountability is worth it. And if you don't focus on, if you never understand what it is that makes the accountability worth it to someone, I don't think you're ever going to get there.
So it's kind of connecting the head to the heart.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that. So guys, Hunter has crushed it. My last time I had Hunter on the Mortgage Coach YouTube channel, we talked about the 3 things that mattered most. It was awesome. I'm going to put a link down below. Highly recommend you check it out. I highly recommend you email Hunter and get on the list and, read those Sunday thoughts a couple times. I mean, he puts a lot of love, passion, and thought into those things. And you're coming from a guy that, in my mind, is a pretty special human being and definitely a special mortgage leader. So I want to close out the last 10 minutes where each of us talks for like 2 or 3 minutes each, just halftime talk. Like, we, coming out of next week and Monday, we are now in the second half of 2020. And I don't think this first half has played out the way any of us wanted or not. Wait a minute, we're killing it. We're in the mortgage business. So we're having personal records, but it's been different. And with those personal records, there has come some burnout. There has come a lot of challenges. And my goal as Mr. Mortgage Coach, and I'm going to share my why, because I think it starts with why, is we have a choice of all the people that we're serving. Are they transactions? Are they loans that we closed? Are they relationships for life? Do these people become a client for life and really a relationship for life? And my goal is that the Mortgage Coach community of loan officers, people that use Mortgage Coach, their careers are transformed. And my goal is that we literally change how people get into debt in America. That there are so many loan officers creating so many total cost analysis that millions of families, that's how we get into debt. Like, if I get a fee worksheet, that's trash. I don't want a fee worksheet. I want a total cost analysis. So the game I'm playing is social change and change on how people get into debt. That's my why. And I get a lot of energy from that. But I want everybody to think, as we come into this, into the first half of 2020, what is your why? I think Hunter said it best. I think it's a good time to journal, rethink about what is your why. And I do want to push mortgage professionals to go deeper with your clients. I want to push you guys, celebrate how many loans you closed, celebrate what your production was, personally with your significant other, celebrate your check. Okay, we're making money, we're killing it, but I'm going to push you guys, start celebrating what's the ripple effect of your impact. Like, how much money did you save families in lower their monthly payments last month? What is the ripple effect? How much wealth with real estate is being created because of the loans that you did? Start writing down those metrics and creating clients for life. So that's going to be my push, is to create a little bit more significance beyond like, hey, we closed this many loans, we did this many production, we have this much in commissions. What's the ripple effect of that advice? And here's the deal. If you don't know, you're not using Mortgage Coach, and you're being a transactional loan officer. Even if you may say I'm a client for life loan officer, if you're not measuring the impact of your advice, you're still in transaction mode. So those are my closing thoughts. Hunter, do you want to go next, or Todd? Which one of you guys wants to go next?
Go for it, Hunter.
So I would say, I mean, I have to look back and say what went well the last 6 months and what I need to fix the next 6 months. And for me, I think for all of us right now, I mean, the operations side, I mean, if we're just purely tactical, the operations side of our business, I mean, these people are ready to jump out the windows on being overworked and underappreciated. So I need to honestly, like we keep talking about, like, what can you do to make your operations people feel better? Quite the only thing that I can do right now is hire. So, I mean, for me, it's about hiring the right team player, the right team members to help with our team. And I mean, Dave, I'll admit it's kind of a tough question for me, because it's been the first 6 months of this year, like everybody, has been so chaotic. I mean, I'm trying to get this long weekend, I'm just trying to get my head wrapped around everything that's going on in my own personal business, the company. So yeah, I mean, I don't think, honestly, I have a very good answer to your question outside of me focusing with my team on what went right and what I need to fix. And actually, you know, you talk about accountability, like, I have to show my team that I'm going to make the changes so that these people can have a life. Because if I don't do that, then it's all a bunch of words. So that's where I am right now.
Well, first of all, that's real, and that's the reality. What kind of production did you guys do last month? How many loans did you close? What kind of volume?
I closed 42 loans for $23.5 million last month, and we're on track to do the same this month. And, you know, I mean, we're already at 110 million for the year. It's just, you know, it's great. I have massive gratitude for it, but it's just also, it's total chaos. And, you know, I mean, when these things are happening, and I'm sure everybody that's listening that's having their best year ever, you find the gratitude, but you also understand pretty quickly that the money's not everything at all, right? So it's like you got to focus on the other stuff, because I mean, you know, I'm making more, I'm doing more than I've ever done, but like, if you don't get it right, if you don't figure out how to make it last, you know, you're just going to crush people along the way. So, but I do have gratitude for it, but I got to remember that, you know. Buddy of mine, literally before our call, I was talking to, sorry to go off on this, but I think it's an important topic, our secondary guy. And you guys probably know the quote better than me, but I was talking about other people, and, you know, you just said, Hunter, you know, comparison is you guys know the quote, comparison is such and such to life. It's like it'll be like, if you compare yourself to others constantly, you're just eating your life away, something along those lines. And he had to remind me of that 30 minutes, you know, not 30 minutes ago, but an hour and a half ago. So yeah, just a lot of crazy stuff right now.
Love it, man. So Hunter, I want to push you, and I know you're not gonna be able to pull it off right now, but to think about, like, if you were closing every loan and you put like a value, like, hey, what was the wealth accumulation value of what we did? What was the monthly savings of what we did? And then how many past customers, how many people that you've done a loan with before, you did a loan with this month. So you're really tracking those client for life statistics. I'm just going to push you to think about operationalizing that. And I do think it would give, over time, like the ripple effect. Like, if you literally, hey guys, we closed this many loans, this many were past clients that we've served before. Great job. We're killing it with retention. And, you know, we saved families $10,556 this month. And if they reinvested that $10,556 that'd be an extra $1 million in wealth for our families. You know, just push
Huge.
you
Yeah,
to,
it changes the meaning of it. Changes the meaning.
Yeah, to talk about the ripple effect of what we do. So Todd, you are Mr. Win by Noon coach. Why don't you take us home and close out the call?
Well, you know, I love what you said, Dave. You start with your why, right? So my why is to help people reach their potential, whatever that is. And oftentimes I find people just haven't taken the time to do what Hunter just said, actually review where they were and really set those goals. And I think that that's, you know, really critical. You guys need the time off, just like your teams are worn out. You're probably worn out from going really hard. And so if there was one thing that I would throw out there is, you know, take this weekend and look back, right? Look at the numbers, look at the successes, right? Look at who you need to show some gratitude to and make sure you do what Dave did and take action, right? Like I love my big takeaway today was I wrote down Dave took action, right? And then what is that ripple effect? But you really got to learn, right? We started off with Hunter talking about his dad saying, if you plan your week, you're going to have a better week. And I think you've got to continue to do that for sure. But let's look back at how did we do, what went well, right? Kind of the old keep, start, stop. What do I want to keep doing? What do I want to stop doing? What do I want to start doing? And then really just take inventory of, you know, not just business, look at personal, right? You know, ask your family how you're doing. You know, how do you want July to be that was different than how June was? Because I think, you know, we've all been on this hamster wheel running so fast that you just have to take the time and then set that goal and then really look to crush that goal, figure out what are the activities I have to do, you know, to get there. Because ultimately, you know, I think in Hunter's video that he did with you before, Dave, he talked about, you know, working his week, right? Making sure that he's doing all the things on the theme days that he's supposed to do. And I just feel like I've talked to so many people who are off track right now because they're running on that hamster wheel. That production's been so good, but at some point it's going to slow down. At some point it's going to come crash, and it could be in, you know, carnage of employees, right? You could have employees leave because of the fact, as Hunter said, they want to jump out the window. They're working so hard. You know, you don't have to look very far. Your production folks are getting recruited by other lenders if you're not showing that love. And so I think it's just a great opportunity to sit down and reflect and really make sure, what do I want my business to look like in Q3? What do I want my life to look like in Q3? And yeah, there's a lot of uncertainty with COVID and everything going on. And are we, you know, out and about, or are we on quarantine and lockdown? But regardless of that, you can still take a look and you can still make some plans and then take action, right? I think that's, like I said, that was my biggest takeaway from here is, you know, I've thought about great things so many times, and I'm going to absolutely take some action. And for those of you in the Win by Noon community who aren't and want to get in it, look, we're going to have our calendar up tomorrow for the next couple of weeks of kind of the webinars that we're going to do to launch people into Q3. And whether you use it or not, you're welcome to jump in and join those. You just go to winbynoon.com/calendar, and it'll be updated by tomorrow morning. And I would love to dig in a little deeper with you guys and see what we can do to really move not just business, but move you guys personally to have really a great Q3 and to close out the year with some amazing success.
So guys, there's something called the January effect, because you kick off a new year, you've got this new zest for a new year. There's no reason we can't take that same energy in the January effect and have the July effect. It's halftime. And I would just push you guys to reflect about how you reset goals, how you review what went well, what went better, that energy for transformation that you had in January, do it in July. And my last words are, have an awesome 4th of July. Go US. And hopefully you got value from today's call. If you did, give us a like down below. I highly recommend, if you're a manager or a leader on this call, you share this with your team. And more importantly than sharing it with your team, follow up with your team. I know why Hunter makes so much change for people, because he is one of those guys. He listens to people. He's trying to get in their head. He's trying to find their why. And then he's following up. He's providing accountability at a level that is uncommon. So if you're a leader, forward this and follow up with your team. Hunter, dude, thank you for the value, bro. Thank you for the leadership.
Thank you, brother. Thanks for having me. Thanks, Todd.
Take care, guys. This call is a wrap, everybody.
All right. See you guys soon.
Later.